Hi there. My name is Juliette Daniels, and I'm the Assistant Dean for Student Services and Enrollment Management at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Dentistry. I am really happy to be part of Health Professions Week and excited to talk a little bit about imposter phenomenon as it relates to students entering the health professions or exploring health professions fields. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my research into imposter phenomenon in dental students, but I'm going to hopefully provide information that's helpful for everyone looking into health professions careers. So the title of the short presentation today is Imposter Phenomenon. Why do I feel like a fake, fraud, phony? So why am I here talking to you today? Well, first of all, I work at the University of Detroit Mercy's dental school, and I work in part in admissions and recruitment of undergraduates and individuals looking to enter the health professions, most specifically dentistry. So dental students are my bread and butter. However, I am very interested and welcoming all of you exploring all different health professions careers. So students looking to enter the health professions, whether it be medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, podiatry, advanced degrees in nursing, or mental health professions, um, have a lot in common. And one of the things that you may have in common is struggling with the idea of feeling like an imposter. So why am I here? Because this topic is important for you as undergraduate and pre-health profession students, and it's also something I researched as part of my dissertation for my graduate degree, my doctoral degree in higher education administration. So I completed my dissertation on imposter phenomenon, and I have a picture of my kids there. I think that's called clickbait, so you can see that I'm a normal person who works at a dental school, an administrator, a faculty member that you may run into, and hopefully a welcoming face as you explore the health professions. So, what is imposter phenomenon? And I will say that often you'll hear imposter phenomenon, and sometimes more commonly you'll hear imposter syndrome, especially in media articles or documents that you may come across that talk about this topic more casually. So I'll use those terms interchangeably. Imposter phenomenon is essentially an individual psychological construct, which means it's a dimension of your personality where a person may feel intellectually like a fraud or a phony, like they're not really as smart as everybody thinks that they are. Imposter syndrome is characterized by extreme self doubt and feelings of inadequacy. So, feeling not as good as everybody else around you, whether it be people in your class, people in your undergraduate major, in your institution, even in your own family. Those of you involved with athletics or different extracurriculars, band, um, musicians, artists, a lot of people struggle with imposter syndrome. And so it's this feeling like everybody around you is better and you're somehow inadequate. People with imposter syndrome externalize success, which means they attribute their accomplishments to things outside of them. So instead of saying, wow, I worked really hard and I earned first chair clarinet, or I worked really hard and got myself into dental school, they would think, well, I just got lucky, or I had to work 10 times harder than anybody else to overcome, that I'm not as smart as everybody, or I knew somebody on the admissions committee. That's why I got in. That's what it means to externalize success. And lastly, people who struggle with imposter phenomenon, they internalize a fear of being found out. So they think it's only a matter of time until somebody figures out I don't belong here, I'm not as smart as everybody else, or I'm not as capable as all the other people around me. This is a good little infographic, a funny infographic, I hope you find humorous, that characterizes imposter syndrome. So when somebody goes up to an individual who struggles with imposter syndrome and says, hey, you'd be good for this team, or you should try out for this part in the play, or you should go for that promotion, or hey, why don't you apply to medical school? You'd be great. Somebody who struggles with imposter syndrome is going to think, what? Really, me? I'm not good enough. They're just probably trying to be nice. Or I bet they say that to everybody. They discount everything that comes their way in terms of feedback and positivity. This is the cycle of imposter syndrome. So, this is actually how it works in many students. Um, Many of my students can really appreciate sort of this model here as an outline of what goes on in your head. And I know that many of you might find this to be helpful as you think about what this means, and is this something that I struggle with. So, somebody who struggles with imposter phenomenon will have an achievement related task. Let's say they have a test or a quiz, or maybe they're going to run a race, or they're going to apply for a scholarship. They will have a lot of anxiety and worry and self doubt. I wonder if I'm good enough. I wonder who else is applying. I wonder if I'm qualified. So and so said I would be good at it, but they were probably just being nice. I'm not sure if I really can do it. And then what happens is the individual will either over prepare or they'll procrastinate. So, imposters who over prepare will study, study, study way more than they need to for the quiz, or they'll train, train, train way more than they need to for the race. They'll put in a lot of effort and they will have some success. They will accomplish. You see the arrow going down, there's accomplishment there. Same with the procrastinators. The procrastinators will put off, they will avoid preparing, they will avoid studying, they will avoid training. But because they're naturally very gifted and talented and hardworking, they will invariably have an accomplishment. They will meet with success. So many of you probably have procrastinated in schoolwork, let's say, but you've done well on the quiz or the exam or the paper anyway. You pulled it out and got a wonderful grade, and that's because you're very intelligent and you are very capable and you have worked hard. So even if this one situation you procrastinated, you still were successful. Individuals who struggle with imposter syndrome will have a feeling of relief. They'll get positive feedback, so they'll win the race, or they'll get a good grade, or they'll make it on the theater group. They'll have success, but instead of saying, gosh, I really earned it, or I worked hard, no wonder I accomplished that, or gosh, I must be semi-smart, I was successful, they'll discount the feedback. They'll say, well, I worked extra hard. I worked 10 times harder than everybody else. I had good luck. So and so on the committee knew me. They'll find some way to externalize that accomplishment. And what that does is it reinforces the feeling of inadequacy. And so then the imposter puts themselves through this cycle over and over and over again. And maybe some of you students listening to this have this experience and recognize some of this behavior in your own self. So after observing my students put themselves through this over and over, and hearing a lot of students who are very capable and doing wonderfully in our program feeling as if they're not good enough, or that everybody else around them is better, I decided to launch a study and explore imposter phenomenon in dental students. I wanted to look at the prevalence of imposter syndrome in this population. I wasn't able to find any studies that exclusively looked at imposter syndrome in dental students, so I wanted to address that gap in the literature, and I wanted to launch the first focused study of imposter syndrome in the dental student population. Here's what I found out, and I can extend to you health profession students from my research. If you struggle with imposter feelings, you are in good company. If you're even thinking of applying to medical school, dental school, if you've been preparing the past few years for a career in the health professions, you're a very elite group. You're a very hardworking group, and you're very intelligent and equipped. And so, although that is a blessing, it is also a curse because you have a high propensity to struggle with feeling like an imposter. Many of the students in the study, in fact, close to 60% of the students in my study, were high levels of imposter feelings where they scored as a frequent imposter, which meant that in their daily lives, feeling like a fraud or a phony impacted them significantly and pervasively. Now, this is tied to many, many mental health issues and psychological distress, which can have an impact on students' academic success and their learning. Um, Especially when you're looking at health profession students, we have to consider the impact that has on the individual, but also the impact that it has on the patients. So if I'm walking around feeling like I'm an imposter to the degree that it's impacting my life significantly and perhaps causing some anxiety or psychological distress, um, I'm not going to be able to be in my role as a provider 100% and feel good about it. I'm not going to be able to fully invest in my patients in a way that is giving them my all. Individuals in the health professions have a patient care role. And so you don't want to have a student who feels like they're just playing the part, or a professional who is just playing the part. You want to have individuals who are confident in their own abilities and don't struggle with feelings like they're not good enough or everybody else around them is more capable, especially to the degree that it's impacting their mental health. And learning how to deal with these feelings as a health profession student, this is part of your identity development. This is part of your professional growth as a clinician, as a dentist, a physician, a podiatrist, a nurse, whatever field that you're going into. Part of the professional identity development is learning how to manage and cope with your own functioning and your own issues and your own concerns in your personal and professional life. And one of them may be imposter syndrome. And in fact, in this study of dental students, I found that many students did struggle with imposter feelings to the degree that it impacted their academic life and their daily interactions with the world. So, what if some of this presentation resonates with you? What will you do about it? Well, very quickly, as a health profession student exploring different careers, you want to understand that this is something, again, like I said, that many of your peers will struggle with. And so, what you want to do is enact what I like to call the fake it till you make it philosophy. Feelings are the last to change. Okay, so if I feel like an imposter, I can't just tell myself, starting tomorrow, I'm going to wake up and feel that I'm good enough. Or I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to discount positive feedback that comes my way. I'm going to embrace it. It just doesn't work that way. So, what I have to do first is change my behavior. When I change my behavior, what happens over time is I change my thinking. And after I change my thinking, then the feelings change. So let me give you an example. If I were to apply for a scholarship, let's say, and I got the scholarship, and I would normally say, well, I got it because nobody else applied. What I might do is consciously think, geez, I must have written a really good essay. Or there must be things in my application that stood out to the committee. I'm really deserving of this honor. So instead of downplaying it and maybe not telling anybody about it, maybe I would share with my friends and family, not in a boastful way, but maybe I would exhibit some pride. And that would change my thinking to allow me to embrace and internalize my success. Instead of making the success something outside of myself, the success is part of who I am. And that's going to, over time, continue to change my feelings where I don't feel like an imposter. I feel like somebody who works hard, is very capable, and takes opportunities as they come my way, and does have some success that I have well earned. I've added in some resources. You should be able to click these links. These are some really interesting and relevant topics for health profession students to look at. And they do speak to all the health professions, not just dentistry, but I will call your attention to the first one that was written by one of our Detroit Mercy dental students, a recent blog post on the American Student Dental Association page. With that, I'll conclude. I will leave my information up here on this slide. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and I wish you luck in your journey exploring health professions. Thank you.